This movie has a beautiful message, but I didn't laugh at any of the jokes. Well, I did laugh at one joke, but it involved death. Should you watch the movie? Yes, but I kinda wish this was a Gargoyles movie instead of a Ninja Turtles. This would have helped that series a lot. If you're an established TMNT fan, especially if you're from the first or second generation, this movie has completely shattered the status quo. Blind buys of the latest Playmates toys did not prepare you for this film. This will be a spoiler heavy critique because that's honestly the best way to talk about TMNT. Also, there's no editing. If you haven't adjusted to the idea that there's more than 5 turtles now because of IDW and The Last Ronin, Mutant Mayhem is not going to do you any favors because of the following. Leonardo is in love with April. Yep, Leo, it's not Donnie anymore. Despite numerous mutants in this movie, only one of them is really a villain. And Utrom does make an appearance, but in this continuity, they may or may not be aliens. TCRI is a thing in this film, but given the conversations of the one Utrom we meet, she just sounds human given how petty she is. Lastly, there is no Hamato clan in this continuity. You probably heard by now that Shredder is only teased for a sequel. You know, like in 2007 TMNT, and we never got a sequel to that, but we did get some poster art. Because of that change, there is no conflict between the Hamato and Foot Clan. Even Rai still has that, but not Mutant Mayhem. So those are the key differences of Mutant Mayhem, but the tone of these new turtles is very sympathetic in nature. You can see them in their low points how they want to escape their Quasimodo lifestyle. But when they're not sad, the turtles are hyper as hell, like the Rise iteration. The behind-the-scenes buzz of this movie is, is now they're real teenagers because they're played by real teenagers, which is all bullshit to me. Well, not the voice acting bit, but the turtles have always displayed teenage behavior, even in the 2003 series. And we definitely saw too much teenager in the 2014 movie, because Mikey was getting an erection for April. Oh, and this is the most contemporary the Turtles have ever been, even more than Rise, because a lot of the humor is just reference the relatable popular thing. The Turtles have always mentioned pop culture since 1987. I can't confirm if Mirage ever made jokes, but I can verify that the conflict of the movie was resolved because of Attack on Titan. That is not a joke. Well, I suppose how Donnie says it was meant to be a joke, but don't forget that the 2012 Turtles were all anime fans because they watched VHS tapes of the equivalent of Voltron. Getting back to the jokes, other things that were referenced are streaming services like Roku, Mark Ruffalo's The Hulk, SpongeBob, and a couple of other things that just took me out of the movie. I think even Ferris Bueller's Day Off is playing in the background. I didn't laugh at these kind of jokes. I usually don't laugh at anything in modern superhero or family movies. I always feel they ruin a dramatic scene, such as the introductory oath they memorize by heart, which speaks of prejudice and fear of humans. It's delivered as the first major joke of the movie, but I'm just here thinking, man, Splinter is teaching these kids that? And the fact they know the oath by heart implies he's been planting these thoughts in their heads for years. Although it's a lot nicer than Mirage and IDW Splinter, who only have Kili no Rokusaki on the brain. The first turtle-related scene in the movie adds a realism to the turtles that hasn't been done in a while. They're sneaking around shoplifting for their groceries, and how they have to take a long way home and not get spotted by anybody. Although these specific turtles have a great longing of interacting with humans and wanting to escape the sewers. There's even this ambient OST that sells that, to the point where I'm expecting to hear Peter Cullen or Steve Bloom give some sort of narration like in a Toonami promo. The point is, these scenes establish motive of what they want, and that's how they resonate with every character they meet, hence April and Superfly. Okay, that didn't mess up. April O'Neil is the biggest controversy of Turtles since 2018, even though there's nothing wrong with her. For a while I've been thinking, do I even like April in general? Because in terms of favorites, there's always other characters to pick, even human ones like Karai or Shredder, and I feel bad for saying that. I haven't finished IDW, but most Aprils that come to mind is the News Reporter variant, or something yellow. Even then, I feel April's presence in media is mainly eye candy fan art or cosplay. I still don't understand how there could be a porn star who's allowed to use her name and not get a cease and desist. To be honest, Mayhem April is the most characterization we gotten since 2012 April. That kid had a lot going for her in that show. Meanwhile, Rise April just felt like a Webby clone. from DuckTales. But Mayhem April's story arc is completed in the movie, so I don't know how she's going to be moving forward, because there's already a TV show confirmed and a sequel. Obviously, because Turtles ain't stopping. It's like Dragon Ball and Transformers, they came and never left. April is essentially a bullied character who is trying to regain her confidence in public speaking, and this leads to the news reporter angle that the 87 series started. If her design was hourglass shaped, it wouldn't change a thing. I mean, if any girl starts vomiting in public and gets called Puke Girl all across high school, that's gonna affect her self-esteem. The idea here is she's investigating the Superfly thefts in hopes to change her life and eventually get a job as an actual Channel 6 reporter. Gotta get the RSPCT some way. So when the Turtles rescue her, they come up with the goal of the Turtles tracking down Superfly, while April documents that they are heroes, and that way they can be accepted by society too. That's how the themes come together. This is where a good chunk of the action is presented with great usage of transitions via montage. Although I keep wondering that a camera must have caught them a couple of times. Smartphones are a thing in this series, and so was in Rise. Anyways, I appreciate that the April meeting scene is completely different, because most of the time it's usually April screaming and fainting. That meeting scene doesn't exist in Rise, but that may have helped her in developing some character, or whatever. Superfly was the most interesting thing to me, as he has a similar background as the Turtles with the relationship with Splinter. Earlier in the movie, Splinter tells them on how they attempted to go up on the surface without disguises or anything. They just went up there, and it didn't go well for them. And it's because of that horrible experience with humans that Splinter fears them. But he's also a father of one. Man. But he's also a single father. Father of one is something else. Moron. This version of Splinter, well, he's a rat. Just a rat. He has no martial arts experience whatsoever. This was giving me flashbacks of the 2014 Paramount movie, because both Splinters learned their martial arts through what's available by modern standards, meaning he watched a lot of how-to videos via tapes and the internet. Don't ask me where they get their Wi-Fi or hotspots on their smartphones in the sewers. I don't even know where Splinter gets their weapons. The idea here is Splinter fears the outside world because he's devoted to his sons. Without them, there is nothing in his life. He's just a regular person/rat, so I found it a little unbelievable for him to be a skilled master or a wise person, because he doesn't have a Hamato connection. As dumb as Mirage did it, this Splinter was not even a rat in a cage mimicking his master's movements before he became a mutant. Getting back to Superfly, he holds the same familial connection as Splinter and his sons. Superfly identifies Baxter Stockman as his father, but he ended up getting murdered by TCRI. Prior to his death, Baxter was going to create his own surrogate family of mutants, which Superfly continued. Prior to the lab getting blown up, Superfly rescued his mutated brethren while they're still in test tubes. Oh, I gotta bring up a nitpick nerd moment. Why are we stuck on ooze? In some material, it seems that people forgot that the term was always mutagen. The 1987 cartoon popularized mutagen, while Secret of the Ooze, well, it goes without saying. Batman vs. TMNT also fought back and forth between the terms, just like the pronunciation of Ra's al Ghul or Ra's al Ghul. Which one is it? Mutant Mayhem has Baxter refer to the substance as ooze, which I don't think this scientist should. Anyone who doesn't know what this is should be the ones calling it ooze. Getting back to Superfly, he's dedicated his life to raising other mutants, and they can be a family. You can see similarities between Superfly and Splinter, but also with the Rise villain Baron Draxum. I feel a lot of Superfly came directly from Baron Draxum, just done in a cohesive manner. I really like this villain because he parallels the Turtles. He had his own family of mutants, and they tried to with the human race, and it goes horribly. But in the opposite direction of defending themselves, Superfly goes the proactive route of beating/killing humans, and his whole plan is to mutate every animal and to become the dominant species of the planet. This is like a Demona plot from Gargoyles. Prior to this planned revelation, there is a friendly meeting between Superfly and the Turtles along with the other mutants, and they're all chummy, and this is a little jarring because many of those mutants are established villains in other iterations, but it works with the message of the movie of coexistence and acceptance. The Turtles are having fun with other mutants, and this includes Bebop and Rocksteady. Raphael is being frat boy bros with them, and I don't recall what the other characters were doing because most of the other mutants don't really have a character. They say a couple of things, but it's mostly jokes. They're extremely one-dimensional, especially Ray Fillet. But again, I like the scene and I like what they're doing here, and it makes the revelation of Superfly's rage and disgust towards humanity all the more darker, because the Turtles are clearly out of their league against this guy. And this is the first time of making the Fly mutant threatening, because every iteration before this, Baxter Stockman was never that much of a foe. But now, with the Son of the Fly being Superfly, it's not Cronenberg levels of power, but Superfly is a gigantic fly with all of its physical prowess intact. Oh, by the way, Superfly is played by Ice Cube, so he's a bit of a foul mouth. I don't know what's up with animated movies lately, pushing the limits of PG dialogue. Turning Red had stripper music and a couple of other things like crap. Because in this movie, we get hell a couple of times, and we're not saying what the shell anymore. Now it's just straight up what the hell. But my real complaint of the movie really comes down to these mutants. Excuse me, Mondo Gecko might have the most character, but not by much. Hopefully the TV show can expand on this. At the end of the movie, the Turtles and Splinter persuade these mutants to not go through with Superfly's genocide plan, and I don't believe that. Every single one of them sided with the Turtles. These 5 other mutants they barely met, but they known Superfly all their life. He is their dad. I don't think all of them should have been quick to change. It is a little weird to not have any humans who become mutants, especially from Bebop and Rocksteady. I feel that would have added to the tone and conflict of the movie, a person who is neither human or mutant, but somewhere in between, but that may no longer be possible, given how the movie ends in a very positive light. If that TV show does continue the storyline, we're going to get Bebop and Rocksteady being friends with the Turtles. Then again, Wingnut and Leatherhead weren't always villains in every iteration. There's also the Mighty Mutanimals that bridge the gap of friendly mutants. Yeah, whatever. The point is, I think some of the mutants should not have agreed so easily. The climax of the movie is a kaiju fight with Super Duper Fly, with the most monstrous mutant design I've seen since the mutated Shredder and April clones of the 2012 show. Unfortunately, the grotesqueness of this form is watered down because of Superfly's hammy dialogue. He's comparing himself to Godzilla and making other, jokey comments. Again, I didn't laugh at these jokes. I would be better... I want the movie to take out these jokes, man. So this is where Leo behaves like a leader and becomes accepted by his brothers. I didn't mention this earlier, but I might as well say it now. Leo is very comedic, and that seems to be a thing now, where his character arc is to become a leader. Nothing is ever gonna beat 2003 Leo's story arc, it just won't, but for the sake of an ongoing story, this seems to be Leo's function from now on. Raphael's a bit more of a jock here, and yeah, that's pretty much what he is. The anger issues are definitely a bit more again, it's kind of done for last, but in my head, I'm thinking, yeah, his anger problems is kind of concerning right now. Donatello is an anime/comic book nerd, and I'm not really sure how smart he really is, because he's not doing machines, he's not really doing any type of equipment, even though there is a toy about a new vehicle of a party wagon, Donatello does not make that thing. Yeah, what else is there? And Mikey is just a funny guy and the one that has the most emotional connections about wanting to belong to other things, but because there's been material before where the Turtles have been wanting to be accepted. The 2016 Out of the Shadows movie, that's what the whole film was about. The original 87 cartoon had one episode where Michelangelo does become a human being. He starts interacting with them. And I'm pretty sure there's other situations that I totally forgot. Because Fast Forward had one episode where, since they're on an alien planet now, where the mutants could just pass off as aliens, so they could walk out in the open and they could just enjoy life the way how they always wanted. So it's a little nice victory for them for Fast Forward, but I don't remember if the show was ever that good. The episode that I looked at the other day was just like, oh, that was just terrible. Mikey, you almost killed a kid. How can you just get away with just oops? Well, that's the theme of the movie. I feel Michelangelo's just a standard Michael that you see in almost anything. The Turtles, they're not my favorite iteration. Leo is comical yet responsible, but yeah, I don't really have anything to add. They're just kind of like bare bones reflections of what you expect from these turtles. I'm just curious how will these versions work in more material because their story arcs are apparently done. They have a happy ending. Is the rest of the series just gonna be like Spectacular Spider-Man or Danny Phantom, XJ9, where when superhero stuff happens in their daily teenage lives? It's a first for Turtles. Well, kind of. I just don't want to spill out the ending just yet, not for this audio video. The happy ending is the Turtles getting their acceptance, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. Mutant Mayhem was certainly different, and even though I don't agree with everything, I'd rather have Turtles venture in new territory. Because we can only do the same story arcs for so long and not get old. Actually, they feel old to me already. Raph and Leo fighting, City at War, Triceratons, Fugitoy, Super Shredder, those kinds of storylines. I don't really want to see them that often. I'm curious in where it's going. Meanwhile, I feel bad for the right. I feel bad for wow. I feel bad for fans of Rise of the TMNT because they've been wanting that thing to return, and of all the Turtle shows, you can tell that thing was just straight up canceled on a very incomplete note. Even though we did get a really good movie. If you stuck with me this long, tell me your thoughts on Mutant Mayhem. I liked the message of the movie, but I didn't like the humor, and I don't think I'm that big of a fan of the Turtles themselves. I guess my feelings for this film is on par with TMNT 2007, where I don't dislike it, but at the same time, I'm just like, I'm not super impressed by it. In contrast to a lot of people. I don't know where their excitement is coming from, because I certainly don't feel it. That's all I have to say. My name is Alex, and thank you for watching my channel, The Anime Hero, even though today I just talked about non-anime things. Although I kind of did. I talked about Attack on Titan for a little bit. Actually, I don't even remember if they say Cowabunga in this movie. For sure, they don't say Turtle Power, even though that's an 80s thing. You do get a little reference of Vanilla Ice's Ninja Rap in one little scene for about 5 seconds. But at least they weren't repeating any. Well, they did repeat a joke. It was like the Batman voice because that happens in the 2014 movie. And I'm a big Turtle fan. I'll just leave it at that. Bye.